I'm a naturopathic doctor, board certified, and I'm here to talk to you about some of the concerns that have been in our communities about Ebola and what it's all about. And we're going to have some questions, so if you want to kind of write them down, we'll get to them when you're ready. And I know this is a passionate topic. Every time I talk about this, things fly. This all began in 2009 when we began to see the H1N1 scare. But let's talk about the politics of it first. What's the politics of health? The total and complete control of our access to what we want is what they want to get control of. How many of us would be unable to proceed without these choices?
Howdy.
I'll let you sit down, so I'll continue again. The access that we have to health is important because it's part of our free will. It's our body, our choice, right? The government's actual job, and yeah, we do have a government and we don't have it functioning properly right now, but in reality, a government is supposed to function to protect its people, right? The not overreaching type of protection, not this that we have today, which overreaches. We want to be protected. So what do we have? We have a government that keeps us away from things that do no harm. It's our business if we want to blow all our money on vitamin C, right? I'll stay back here. When we get into the choices of health, we are getting less and less choice, and one really good example is the National Health Care Plan, also known as Obamacare. When it was passed, there was said nothing about it being a tax. Nothing. And I'll explain why that's important in a minute. After it was passed, it went to the Supreme Court, where there is a packed house of people with dual citizenship and or sold off to another agenda that's not American. And they ruled Obamacare as a tax. So what did that do? That changed the enforcement of it to an entirely different jurisdiction. It no longer became a choice. It became a requirement. Now, I'm not arguing about the laws of income tax or any of that. But we aren't supposed to have a tax unless we abide by the constitutional rules that tells us how we're going to decide to get it, right? If we want to pay, if we're at war, we apportion the tax, etc. We've agreed to certain kind of taxes, but we didn't agree to this one. The Supreme Court, packed with an agenda that's not for you and I, took our choice away. Now we're compelled to participate in a system that we didn't choose. That's the agenda of the existing broken medical model. Now, when I was teaching, I was a professor in Michigan, teaching pre-med and nursing anatomy. One of the first things I said was, you are going to be taught how to become whatever you're going to be, a nurse, a brain surgeon, whatever, but you're going to be taught in the existing medical model, which is broken. So let's go ahead and see what's wrong. My first semester of teaching, I was there to teach the honors program. And I thought I'd get kicked out, but I thought, who else is going to get to do this? The honors program is a new program. And so I went ahead and stuck my neck out, got full support the entire time I was there. There are certain people in place that understand we're losing this battle. More currently with Ebola, we've got to find out what the agenda really is. First of all, I hear all kinds of stories. Is it real? Is it not real? Let's start there. I didn't see H1N1. Even if it was there, I would not have seen H1N1 because I'm not a virologist. And I wasn't tracking the changes of the DNA protein structures on the cells at a laboratory. However, I had colleagues that were. I relied upon them. So in our assessment of problems out there, all I can say is we have to rely on other people that are trustworthy, and that's the key, to tell us whether what we've got going is real. Now, this virus, Ebola, is deadly. Whatever it really is, it's deadly. Now, I have so many hours of research into this topic, I really don't know where to begin, so I'll begin in the middle. We have the political, here let me put it this way. When you mix big pharma with politics, you're putting together a cocktail of death. That's the main thing. Is big pharma interested? They never were interested in Ebola. Big pharma is for profit. This business here is for profit. That business across the street is for profit. And there's nothing wrong with that until you become abusive. In this place, if they got abusive, they'd lose customers. But what if there were laws in place supporting that you have to be used? Well, that's what they've done. This industry called medicine. So what do we have? When we look at the people that are involved in our healthcare system to help us, we have to figure out, are they friendly fire or are they really a friend? You know what friendly fire is? It's where you get shot by your own soldier. He's got orders to kill you on the front line or something. That's friendly fire. Well, they are doing that in Big Pharma. They're killing us. Oh, I'm your friend. You give me a water. Big Pharma. In the meantime, Big Pharma has had no motive, and I wouldn't either if I were a business, to go and make money researching Ebola. Why? Because there wasn't hardly a handful of them sick. No need to. But in the real world, when it's working correctly, our government is charged with protecting us. Let's put the button on it and say it's working right. We know it's not, but let's just say it's working right. So in this case, what would they do? If a government is working right, even though there's no money to be made in it, it's their job to go wherever that outbreak is, because it could be a weapon of mass destruction. And they should go there and defuse it. Do you see what I'm saying? Sure. Because it's their job. No, it doesn't make money. We're already paying them to do this. So what are they supposed to do? Thank you for the water. What are they supposed to do? Well, they in the government are supposed to send their most capable people over to Africa, find this virus, even bring it home to the lab that's appropriate for it. Level 4 would be the most appropriate. And figure out how much of a threat it is, and if it is, get an antidote worked out. Not for profit, but to protect us. Now, the problem we've got starts there. That's what they're supposed to do. But the problem with the antidote is all of them that may think they're experts probably don't realize what they've been taught is an antidote won't work. It's not the antidote. And I'm referring to vaccines. Vaccines, which then would be developed by our tax dollars with a formula for this vaccine handed over to Big Pharma after it's profitable enough to be sold. So here's where the problem comes. Whether it's our military-industrial complex, particularly Fort Meade, that's involved in researching this virus, finding a solution, handing it over to Big Pharma. Can you imagine if you were like Rumsfeld, or even today our guy that we thought was going to be the great Secretary of Defense because he was anti-Israeli, only to kowtow to him the minute he gets in. So during the Obama administration, we now have a defense minister that might be going, we're working on it, I think we got a solution. Who's going to pay me? Which big pharma is going to pay me the bribe money to get this solution? See, the paradigm that they're working in makes them believe there is a solution they can get called a vaccine. They think that could be the solution. So they behave as if it is, and then they, of course, extort people, corruption, and all kinds of bad stuff surrounding the fake cure. Now, why do I say fake cure? They have it correct to a point in that they understand that the immune system responds to certain things. They've got that down. What they don't have is the model of cyclogeny. Now, what in the world is that? Let's put another word to it. Virology, bacteriology. The cycle of microbes, their ability to upgrade to a pathogen, is called cyclogeny. They don't want any other model described in their understanding of pathogenic microbes. Why? Well, because they won't support Big Pharma. You know what I mean? What if you've got something that doesn't support Big Pharma that actually works even better, but it doesn't support Big Pharma? You're going to have a problem. So, put politics into your health care along with a broken model of medicine, and they're cooking up a cocktail of death called vaccines. I won't get into that too much. Where I want to go mostly, and we can expand on this and get you more information, but where I want to go mostly is what's going on. I've been asking, interviewed, I don't know how many times. Was it cooked in a military industrial lab, complex lab? You know, was it a military cocktail? That lady that came in here is from Missouri, says she's from Shawnee State, right? Well, I don't know if it was cooked. We have some crumb trails. We can presume certain things, but I don't know where it came from. But here's what I do know. Because you can do two things. You can follow mainstream media about it, or you can follow the real world's trail. Alternative media is giving us a lot of good information and horrible information at the same time. Who do we trust? Well, mainstream media, as they often do, will not let a great opportunity from slipping out of their hands to scare people to death. So they are. Are there people dying of Ebola? Yes. Is it what they're reporting? I don't know what you're hearing reported. I've got the numbers. And I'm going to tell you about them. But right now, it's very difficult for the medical industry, the military-industrial complex, and Big Pharma to lie about some of this stuff, because you and I, the ground crew, are there. And there are some people out there in the ground crew that are writing down the notes. They're taking cameras. Phones are taking pictures. They're tweeting all over. And that's the real world. And that's what I'm following, along with the CDC and the World Health Organization and the Army Medical Corps, blah, blah, blah. In 2001, after the big scare, big building came down, we had training. It was from Army Medical Command Headquarters. It was for military people. And they taught us how to handle biological warfare. It was a joke. It was a joke. I'm going, can you believe that these people would do this stuff with a contagion and be that stupid to behave the way they're doing? Well, guess what? It hasn't changed. They are behaving. Here's why. Because those in charge of protecting us have decided not to train us, or those, not me, but the public, and health practitioners that know, well, they're going to be on the front line, the nurses. They're not training them or giving them the tools to stay out of harm's way. And I think it's on purpose. Why? Let's stop. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, we had bird flu, we had swine flu, and who knows what other kind of scares in the last 10 or 12 years. And none of those have turned out to be the quote-unquote endemics that we're all supposed to be afraid of. Is Ebola just simply prepping us to accept more vaccinations as the cure-all?
Let's back up and answer it in a really good way here. We know that 911 had an agenda for accomplishing something, and it got it accomplished. They had the Patriot Act and eventually NDAA and all that. But did 2 buildings fall? Yeah. No. 3.
Yeah, 3 and 7. He got paid for 7.
But we had buildings fall. Did people die?
Yeah.
I wasn't there, but there was. I mean, we had too much ground information to say that they didn't die. Too many people, too many witnesses. Same with Ebola. Bird flu, where's the dead people? H1N1, where's the sick people? They were dry runs. Ebola, there is dead people. There is sick people. Is it a false flag? Yes. Was 911 a false flag? Yes. But false flag does not infer that buildings really didn't fall.
Right.
Now, how? We don't know. Likely the breadcrumbs say, deliver it, right? And of course, throw out the official report. We started throwing out official reports back with the commission on the Warren Commission, on JFK. We started throwing them out then. Okay, so we've been throwing them out ever since. And so when CDC and WHO start reporting about Ebola, we want to go, we want to just throw them out because we can't rely on them. Trust me, there are people, colleagues, and people like me that don't trust them, that are bird dogging and watching them, and some who are actually getting paid, like Dr. Nyman in Philadelphia at Drexel University, through Risa Labs, who are actually checking stuff, getting the reports, accumulating the specimens, checking to see how the subclades or the change in the DNA is occurring, and he reports how it agrees or doesn't agree with the CDC report or the World Health Report. So have confidence, there are people that are very suspicious, including him, of the CDC and the World Health. But you've got to know what they believe. He thinks vaccinations are the answer. But he's tracking them, even though he thinks that's the answer, he's tracking them and saying there's lying. We have a doctor, emergency room doctor, in Kansas City, has contacts in Springfield, that just went into the Atlanta airport in a full biohazard suit. And on the back, he wrote, "The CDC is lying." And he walked right into the airport. Of course, you know, guess what happened? TSA shows up. But guess what they asked him? "Do you have any alcohol?" He's got a suit on. They said, "Well, actually, there's nothing in our rules saying you can't wear this, but you're going to have to take it off while we go through the detector." So he took everything off, got all patted down. They came and talked to him. "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm just making people aware. I'm just trying to." And so the night before he went on, he called it was the Atlanta airport, he called the Atlanta newspaper. He said, "I'm going to be doing this. I'm a doctor." Splashed pretty heavy. For the brain dead, that was good. For you and me, you know, catch up. You know, just get on there and catch up. So what is going on? Let me explain some of the facts that we are watching, and I am also calculating spread rates myself. Based on how I know how to do it, pretty assumptions that you have to make. For example, what kind of environment, what kind of culture, what kind of people, do they travel? So let's get back to one real basic. The reason why Ebola that was in the 70s broke loose and didn't go anywhere was because of one major thing. It was in the Congo, and they didn't have airports, they didn't have roads, they didn't have cars, they didn't travel anywhere. So guess what? It was contained, okay? Why weren't there more deaths? Well, they had a lot of deaths for their community, but they wouldn't let them out of that community. But they didn't want to leave that community, so it burned out right there. But let me ask you this. When something like this erupts, and you have some missionaries out there that are working with people, I mean, they're not doing health work, they're missionaries. And they see some guys on the ground and they're bleeding out of their eyes, their ears, their mouth, and their skin starts going, you know. They have this epiphany, oh my gosh, something's wrong. They don't know what's going on, right? So they call in their headquarters, like whatever their missionary board is, and say, we got blah, blah, blah. Who then takes that information and reports it. It ends up being at the military industrial complex in Sansa. That's what I'm getting at here. It's not beyond the capability of 1974 outbreak being collected by our people that are supposed to be protecting us, because they went in biohazard suits, showed up, you know, helicopters land, they get out and they're in these suits, like you see in the movie. They go over to this dying person and they take a sample and he thinks he's going to get fixed. And they take all these samples, put them in a container, get back on a helicopter and leave. They're not there to help. That's what happened with Ebola. Now, here's where your suspicion should rise. What did they do with that? What did they do with it? Well, what do you think military people do with deadly
viruses?
Yeah, improve it. They improve it.
Yeah.
What do they want to improve? Say, by the way, if you have a pathogen that kills extremely fast, they don't like that.
No.
Because it doesn't give time to spread. They want it to be delayed, like maybe 21 days. They want to tell you, oh gosh, Ebola is not airborne. Now let me explain something to you. That does not mean it would be successful to put Ebola in a sprayer, okay, get in a helicopter and go and spray it over a community. Here is why. Once it gets out in the air, during the daytime, the UV light's going to kill it. So it's over. So that's not very effective. If it's at night, it won't kill it. But when the sun comes up, the UV light's going to kill it. But it will last a little while. The problem with that is it's just not very effective. It's not effective enough. The best way to spread it is to put it in somebody.
Like in a vaccine?
Not. Just put it in them. Go to a village, get them sick, but make sure what you're going to give them has been tweaked so it spreads.
And leave them some airplane tickets.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Has it been weaponized? Well, let's look at the anecdotal evidence. It is behaving differently. Dr. Nyman says, golly, this does not match the Ebola that erupted in 1974, but it is Ebola. It's close enough, but it's changed. He doesn't know how. He just knows by looking at it, okay? By doing some DNA research on it. But he can't tell. You and I have to follow the breadcrumbs. Why would it be changed? Well, you and I know there's a certain group of people out there that would love to have our people dead. By the way, they just so happen to be in charge of the banks, Hollywood, media, big pharma, the military-industrial complex. Could I go on? Okay. That is our enemy. I don't care if you're in France, Great Britain, Germany, America, Australia, Canada, South Africa. I don't care where. That same group of people is targeting us. Farrakhan was right. He said just recently, well, he said, white man has targeted us for extermination because there happens to be a racial affinity for this, by the way. Interesting is that it's not for the white person. Have you ever heard of coups? Have you ever heard of, bad guys in the military? Yes. So that means there's got to be some good guys left. So there are good guys in the military. There are good guys in the government. There are good guys in some of these circles that might be saying, I'm not going to let them make this kill America. At least not the America that came here. The Jeffersons, the Washingtons, the Franklins, regardless of what you think of those guys. The guy that wrote the classic book, Common Sense, what was his name?
Thomas Paine.
Thomas Paine. Let's see, we had a black man, a Chinese man, a Jew,
Africa.
wait a minute, no, wait a minute. They were all Anglo-Saxon. Maybe our people have gotten smart enough to see this and have coyly outsmarted them because the affinity for this is blacks. Now, I'm not saying we did it on purpose. What I'm saying is, I think they targeted a certain people and it got changed. But, let's put that aside. Maybe that's not it. Maybe that's not what happened. What does our enemy do? What's their classic? Let's take Ukraine. The people are revolting for freedom against a corrupt system that overthrew their elected government. Now, was that president good? No. He was probably just as corrupt as any other president they've had. Maybe not the ones that are there now. But he wasn't a good guy. But it was a process that was right. They actually elected him. It's their job to figure out how to get rid of him if they don't like him, not have somebody come in and make a coup. So here's what happened. A certain group of people called Mossad went in and started stirring these people up to revolt in Ukraine. So guess what they did? They went over to the revolt side, got in some buildings, and started shooting the side they were supposed to be installing. In other words, the group of people that took over and kicked everybody out and took over the Ukraine, okay, had some operatives that decided, I got to make some of our people become martyrs. Okay? So he goes over to the good guy's side and shoots some of his own people. What's happening here, more than likely, is that we will get blamed for targeting everybody but white people. Do you see what they've just done?
Yeah.
They've created our enemy. They have caused. Now, you might say, well, it's going to affect them. Well, they'll sacrifice their own people to get it. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, look at Ferguson, Missouri. These blacks in Ferguson, Missouri will use any excuse to blame white people for anything that goes wrong in their community, right? Church's chicken is spreading disease, right? That's how they think.
So
Just feeds into that.
it's this common dialectic approach.
Yeah.
They're the dialectic. They have to have friction between two entities. If it's not political, the easiest is racial.
Yeah.
Racial friction. They create it. Now let's talk about some more facts. The other day, this last weekend, more than 120 people died of Ebola in West Africa. That's the first time in one day, more than 100. Now it's almost 100 every day. We have about 9,000 dead people. You go, wow, that's how many I thought they had it. Well, here's the deal. The people that I'm getting information from are reading the official report from CDC and WHO, which are reporting that about 9,000 people total have it, and that about 4,000 people are dead. When in reality, about 21,000 people have it right now, and in addition to that, about 8,000 people are dead. Okay? Let me give you the spread rate. The spread rate is, I get Ebola, or I get a cold, or I get whatever. But if it's contagious, how many more people will get sick because of me? That's the spread rate. The rate, though, rate infers over a certain period of time. Does that mean a day, week, month, okay? Week. We're doing weeks. They report in weeks. They're trying to do this in weeks. Okay, the spread rate per week is that for every person that gets Ebola, 1.86 people, statistically, more get it in a week. No matter what we do. So what's it doing?
Oh,
It's growing. 1.86, okay, another independent research group that I trust, that came from who? The one that I trust came out, and they did a little bit more sophisticated. Their sophistication is based on environmental, racial, and that kind of thing, okay? All the variables. So they have a broader range, and they didn't average it. It's kind of like, predicting the path of a hurricane. It goes, it's going to go this way, it's going to go this way, here's our range. Most likely it'll be here, but what's the range? The range is, for every person that gets it, 0.91% get it. So that's not increasing. That's burning out very slowly. Okay, it's just kind of petering out. But that's been a week since that study's done. This is such a important and dangerous situation, so volatile that changes all the time. Well, what's the top end? Well, they found out that World Health lied. Does that surprise you? The spread rate is 2.71. For every person that gets sick, almost 3 are getting sick. Okay, this is where I about cry. I go, they're monsters. They're absolutely morbid, pathogenic, pathological monsters. Here's what's going on. Let me give you how the government hasn't told people to deal with this. And this was exactly what they weren't doing when I got trained at U.S. Army Medical Command headquarters, went for the biological warfare back in 2001, and it hasn't changed. Here's what they're doing. Thomas Duncan, the black man in Dallas. Yes, he has it. Yes, well, he's dead. But here's what happened. The sheriff comes in, sign this, we're going to force you into quarantine. Here's what you'll get. You'll get food, you'll get water, you'll get protection, but you ain't leaving this spot. And guess what happened?
They tried to leave.
No. They stayed. They feared the people would kill them the minute they walked out the door. They did.
Night of the living dead.
There were 3 people went. 2 from the local health, 1 sheriff deputy. They're now symptomatic with Ebola. And they're trying to tell us it doesn't spread through the air.
How many days does it take?
It's an incubation period that takes 21 days to get to the really bad stuff. Now we find out you don't even need a temperature to spread it.
But you can also touch things. It can be on a surface.
Yeah, it can be on the surface for about a week, dry. That's shorter than HIV. HIV can be there like about 25 days. But this group of people that went in had no protective. They're saying, oh, well, you get it from vomit, blood, internal fluids, semen, that kind of thing. So, golly, guess what they did? They went in unprotected because the CDC says, don't worry, if he breathes on you, you can't get it. They are foolish liars. What do you do as a military commander if you suspect something? If it's the worst case scenario, the military reacts on a 10% chance of a threat of mass destruction. They respond. They don't wait till they verify, because when you verify an event's about ready to happen and it's completely verified, it's already happened. That's too late. So you have to take your best shot before. The CDC didn't want to step on that. These guys go in naked. Now they're after 400 people to find out just who Duncan had contact with. He went from West Africa to Brussels Airport, Washington, D.C. Airport, to the Atlanta Airport, and then into Dallas.
Good luck.
During this time, they have just found out it didn't take a fever, he was contagious. There is no need this time to fake H1N1 or fake bird flu. By the way, the main person spreading that stuff on bird flu, I nailed her. I was on the radio with her and I nailed her bud. And I said I'd flunk you if you were in my class. I said I got your 125-page report, and I called Los Alamos Labs and I went to their website. I got the information that you got, and guess what? You're lying. I colorblind. She was hired to plant scary stuff. But this time, get rid of all that. Get rid of the H1N1 scare, get rid of the bird flu scare. We have a problem. And they did it this time, and it's real. So, what do we have to deal with? Oh boy, here's the projections. They're saying in West Africa right now, in the information that I have from people that are not officials, ground crew like you and I that are working, there are currently 1 million people in quarantine in West Africa. How's that affect us here? I just got word 1 mouth away from the commander of the base. I'll tell you who, well, maybe I won't. It's being recorded, I'll tell you after this. He is the base commander in Colorado, top dog, 2-star general. That's probably too much. And here's what he said. Mainstream media is lying to you, and right now Ebola is in 9 states of the United States. Now, this doesn't count when you have somebody like a missionary like Brantley with Samaritan's Purse brought back to Atlanta. What he means is, no, Brantley brought back in a biohazard suit, treated in the hospital is not what he's calling, well, it's in Georgia now. That's not what he means. He means in the wild, like Duncan. What did Duncan do? From Dr. Nyman, who's doing all this research out of Drexel University, paid for it, and he's a tenured professor. So the government's not got him in control. In fact, he constantly is countering CDC and World Health, okay? His sources said that Duncan went back to Liberia after being here. He's a black guy. He's from there. Went over, and there was some lady that was sick who was a sister of his brother. Anyway, this man that he knew's sister was sick. He carried her to a medical facility they had set up. They refused him and her. He brought her back home, and her brother was dead in the house. He knew what he was into, and when he got on the airplane, the Liberian government asked him, have you been in contact with any Ebola problems? He knew it. And you know what the TSA checkpoints were doing? Here, fill out this form so we can see whether or not you're a threat. So what did he do? He said, no. Oh, okay, thank you. You know why he did this?
Yeah.
His idea of good health care was to come back to the States because over there it's morbid. You don't even want to go to their hospitals. Ever. Even from a car wreck, they don't, you know. Okay, so he gets on the airplane, and we find out now you don't have to have a fever to infect other people. And he travels all the way back here. And I got to thinking. As I watch all the news, I also watch the mainstream media to compare what I'm getting from the ground crew to what mainstream media is saying, okay? And boy, sometimes it's always lying, but you would just be surprised the trash they put out. But here's one thing that was absent. If you and I were the topic of a mainstream media newscast, you know what they'd say? Retired worker, self-employed person, pastor, has Ebola. What did they say about Duncan? They didn't tell what he did. Repeatedly. And I go, ooh, the silence is deafening. What's going on here? Well, guess what? This complex that he is in is owned by an Asian, and most of the people in that complex are either Asian, Chinese, or blacks. They were brought to the United States with no job, given welfare, payment to cover their apartments. By the way, these have rock fireplaces, a pool, a clubhouse. We're not talking Section 8 housing here. All as the guest of Obama. They can't navigate the English language. So how are they working? Well, Duncan and his live-in girlfriend and her two adult relatives, this is how they do this. We're all living in this apartment. Of course, with all the aid that they get, they kind of can, put together a little bit. So we Americans, through our taxes, our government, paid to fly him over to Liberia. And we paid to fly back. And he is not a citizen. And he has no work. Neither does his girlfriend. And come to find out, neither do 90% of the people in this apartment complex of several hundred people. It's a huge complex.
Yeah.
Obama just, of course, approved another 13,000 visas to let Liberians come into this country. We also have the general saying, gosh, we've got a problem on the border. We now have not Muslims threatening us, gangs, Hispanic gangs. Some of these gang members have said, I'm going to do the suicide thing. They want to get infected. They want to come into the United States. And they want to spread the Ebola virus all over the places and attack and say, thumbs up, bud. Hey, bro, I did it. Into their gang. So they can be praised, see? There are 100,000 illegal gang members in just Texas alone. And we already know that 10 of them are doing this. This crap about ISIS coming across the border in Texas with Ebola is crap. But we do know that we have other problems that are already bringing Ebola into America. So, number one, is it real? Yes, just like the buildings at 911, that he really fell down, we really have Ebola. Number two, is it a false flag? Yes, it's a false flag, and we're under attack. So what's the projection? Well, I think they're hyping it up, but we just got a new virus in. It's called Entero 68. It causes kids to get paralyzed like polio and death. It was brought in by the Central American Hispanics that came across the border. It is now in all 50 states. We have a better chance of working in alternative therapies working on that than Ebola. Here's the problem. Don't count on anything saving your life with Ebola. Don't. Here's the preventive answer is the question. Preventive care is the answer. Prepare to quarantine yourself. Figure out ways that when you go out the door to do something, that you can do it without doing that. So you've got lots of things to cover. If you go out, that means you need to be very cautious of what things you need to stay separated from. First of all, get you a little zip-up bag. Do you have yours here?
Yeah.
Get you a little zip-up bag and use this bag to put your money in. All your coins, all your money right here, okay?
Careful, it's contaminated.
Put silver coins in there, just to not spend, but to come in contact with stuff.
Okay.
Also, spray it with silver. Also, put essential oil in here. Contain your money. Handle your money with gloves. When you go to somewhere where there's a keypad at the market, don't use your finger.
Use my keys.
Don't use your finger. The keypad has been known to even have the AIDS virus on it.
Oh.
Second thing is the car has to have gas. Don't handle the gas pump. Go get you one of those towels to dry it off. Grab the handle. Don't touch the metal. Throw the towel away. Go get you some baby wipes, put it in your car, put it in your house. Don't touch the steering wheel until you wipe your hands with it. And I'm sorry, throw the towel out the door. On the ground and let the sun destroy the bug, okay? Just be careful who sees you. So if you do it on private property, it's not against the law. You won't get a ticket. And get you another fresh one and clean your steering wheel off. While you're out, do not touch your face. Touch your face about every 30 seconds. She's touching hers now. I've been watching, you touched yours, you've touched yours. He hasn't been doing so much lately. He's got his hands full. He's doing pretty good. So is he. Okay? If you want to keep yourself from poking yourself in the eye while you're out, go to Home Depot and get those clear glasses that they use for cutting wood, you know. And they come around and they fold just like glasses. You can put them over your regular glasses. And it'll cover here. It'll cover the side. Okay? And then when you get home, here's what you're doing. First thing you do is you open the door, not with your gloves, because that doorknob needs to be okay. Grab you that towel in your seat. Walk before you even empty your car. Walk in, unlock the house, go on in, go wash your hands, and then you take those gloves. Do you know how to do this? You've got rubber gloves on if you wanted to do that. You put your finger on this, you just pinch it. You don't get your finger under it. Pinch it on the outside. Pinch it on the inside, on the outside here. And pull. Turn them inside out. Throw them in the trash, that's good enough. As long as you're just going to tie that trash up. So don't be going through your trash to separate disposals. Yeah.
Okay, well, what about plastic gloves?
Plastic
I see
gloves.
more and more people wearing plastic gloves, like at checkout. I'm coming down here this last trip, I've seen like a dozen people.
Yeah, the plastic gloves, the disposables are much more convenient.
Yeah,
if you have an allergy to latex, get the nitro glove. And those are going to work for you the best because they're disposable.
Right.
Okay, do those first. If you're going to have gloves that you don't throw away, they aren't as flexible or klutzy. But if you use them and you're going to keep them, have a dish pan, a plastic dish pan with water in it about that deep, with a high concentration of Clorox. Wash your hands with soap. Drop your gloves into the pan and let them soak in Clorox, okay? When they make these tents to go in and out of with sick people, they're not showing you this, but they have a big pan on the ground with water in it and Clorox in it. And they walk through it going in, and they walk through it going out, okay? And they have boots on. They're supposed to. 400,000 suits just got sent to West Africa by the United States government for them to use to help sick people in their homes because there's nowhere to go. They're going to set up a hospital with our military, our 4,000 now, 4,000 military going there to help. Folks, there isn't enough beds. We can't even house that many people. This is a show of force. The military is actually going there for probably nefarious, plus helping the Liberian government enforce the quarantine. How they enforce? They're shooting them. They leave. They shoot them. Okay. I've got a lot more stats, but the minimum projection by January 20th is 550,000 with Ebola, and the worst is 1.4 million in West Africa by January 20th. And that's assuming if you just stopped it right there, nothing else would happen. Imagine the doubling rate. Let me give you an example. Between 0.91 and 2.71, there's an average. So it's around 2, a little less than 2, about 1.86. Do you remember the story about the guy that says, I'm going to offer you a job for 1 month. I'm going to give you a penny a day. And you're smiling like, yeah, right, I'm going to take that. But the next day I'm going to give you 2, the next day I'm going to give you 4, the next day I'm going to give you 8, and you double what you get than the day before. You better take it. You're going to be a multi-millionaire on day 30. See, what happens, it's like the national debt. The chart goes like this, slowly building. When it starts to get to the end, it goes, grrr. It's almost straight up. It's just, I mean, you can put the national debt here. And you know, I always call those a breadcrumb. What other chart looks like that? The national debt. I wonder if the national debt is an agenda by the same people that are doing this. Do you see what I'm saying? They have a modus of operandi you can see here, here. Now we know Israel in 2012 met after Johns Hopkins University published a book saying that the Jews in Israel are Khazarian. He had a big meeting, had all his advisors get around. After quite a lengthy, like a 1.5 years of research, they came back to him and said, well, Bibi, it's accurate. So you know what they decided to do? They huddled and said, oh, so Khazaria is what we really are? So you know what they decided? They said, you know, we need some more room. Why don't we just go back home? So, unofficially, they are working an agenda, and there's a name to it. Here's the operative name. It's called Khazaria 2.0. Right after that, the coup happened to take over and overthrow the president. And right now, as I speak, there's a policy been issued in Israel that says if you want to go settle in Ukraine, no problem. It's free to all you Jews in Israel. You don't have to go, but you can go, and we'll help you with this and this and this and this and this and this. We're under attack. Now, one more last thing. If any of you know about the Webbach report, I don't have time to go over it. There's some pretty incredible predictions. The Webbach report is a software package developed by a man that was doing predictive programming for things. I think I might have mentioned it here last time. It was purchased by the United States government from this man after they found out he was doing it for prediction of markets for Wall Street people, and then he began to see other things he was always throwing away, but then he paid attention to it. The next thing that happened was, oh my God, it says we're going to have a 911 event. He says, this is the biggest peak I've ever seen in the data for something like this. What is this? And then it happened and he went, oh my God, what have I got here? So he has been using this to predict events and so forth. And Ebola is in here. We are going to have ground crew revolt by parents and people saying, my child isn't safe. It's going to start in Texas, apparently around Dallas. The schools are going to begin to collapse. And there's a lot more predictions about the fear of Ebola and its effect on our society. And I don't have the predictions in time to do those probably in this, but I'll have them up at the watermanfiles.com for you to look at. And I will be talking about them. I'm going to be putting them in an audio file. But the data looks just like an agenda. Now this is when they say, let's take a real event and capitalize on it, right? Yes, Ebola is real. It is extremely dangerous, and we do have a problem. And since we do have a problem, they're just going to scare everybody to death. That's the plan. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, you can talk about natural healing ways like silver, zappers, ozone, that kind of thing.
Silver works this way. Colloidal silver or microcrystallized silver, whatever you want to call it.
Nano.
And nano, yeah. It kills microbes on contact because silver is an electrical conductive membrane that goes in and takes a little microcurrent of a cell, uses it against itself to rupture the membrane open on contact, and thus, therefore, it's over. But taking silver will not remove the symptoms of Ebola. In fact, we don't know anything that will remove the symptoms of Ebola. I would be saying it. Now, here's where people that are irresponsible do this. I can tell when a natural practitioner, alternative practitioner, has never really dealt with people dying. I have. You get serious as a heartbeat when that person dies, you're taking care of it. What could I have done? What could I have done? And then you begin to get very sober about the fact that you're playing with people's lives and that most people don't know a damn thing about how stuff works, but they're out there telling you it will fight Ebola. It'll help you be healthy. But do you want to gamble? Here's how I say it. If you think it's so good, then you take your product and let me give you Ebola and let's just see what the odds are. It won't kill it that we know of. Nobody's tested against Ebola. The secret for whatever it takes to kill Ebola probably rests at Fort Meade from 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I'm sure they know.
But they're not going to tell us.
No.
But they have to have an outbreak
Right.
for Big Pharma to be interested in participating.
What's the likelihood of ozone working or essential oils working?
For you to be
exactly
preventive
working?
and healthy, you need to stay home at a certain point. But here's what you can do. Like I said, use these wipes. But when you're at home, there are essential oils that do have effects that we know of on viruses. So it wouldn't be outside of responsible suggestions to say that the essential oils that are known to kill virus wouldn't work on Ebola. Yes, they probably will, but not necessarily something I'd gamble my life on. But you might as well.
Yeah.
Why not?
Can't hurt.
Now, the things that work even better than silver. Silver is like having, let's say you have the virus. It's represented by a bunch of hornets coming at you. And you've got this gun of silver nanoparticles, and you're going to spray it, okay? Well, it's kind of like taking a shotgun with silver shot. You're going to shoot at the hornets coming at you. You're going to knock a big hole in this swarm coming at you. You're going to knock a whole bunch of them out of the air, but you're still going to get it. So, here's what I would do. Something even better would be aerosolizing or getting a diffuser for essential oils known to kill viruses and set it on, get one with a timer. I can help you find one if you need it, but get you one with a timer so that you can have it running in your house constantly. At home is your safety. Some other things that you can take, no, oregano oil won't save your life. Curcumin won't save your life. All the list of everything that you know, it's not going to save your life. This is something that you've got to survive. And the only thing that I know of, the most powerful antiviral pathogenic remedy that I know of is called pleomorphic remedies. And guess what? 6 months ago, after me using them for 10 years, let me tell you this story. I was using pleomorphic remedies for almost a decade when H1N1 scare came out in 2009. And they wouldn't let them in the country from Germany. They wouldn't let us have it. That faded away, right? Nothing really happened. Well, people got vaccinated. And then we had to restructure, or they restructured, and they brought the remedies in a different way, and they were available again until 6 months ago. The FDA attacked them, wouldn't let them have them in the country. I told Susan something's on the way.
Right.
Because they took off the threatening remedy to fix this problem. If it's anything, it's that. Why? Because it's not the Pasteur model. It's the Bichon and Enderlin, two German scientists that have 4,000 volumes of research on pathogens and their cycles and what it takes to take a pathogen microbe, whether it's a fungus, whether it's a bacteria, whether it's a virus, from pathogenic state down to this thing called a prion, but they called it a protein at the time. It was before mad-cow disease was calling it prions. They can cycle those down to not do anything to you. Poof, they're gone. We just called, didn't we? And they said, some of the stuff's back, but the most important ones for viruses are not. So guess what we did? We had a guy that needed it really bad. He's losing his eyesight. It just so happened that he needed a viral remedy. I said, do you have contacts in Germany? Because he works with a company out in Germany. He says, yes. A friend of his is in the military. It got to him faster than we did on the FedEx stuff when it was working. What was it, 3 days, 4 days? From Germany. He went into the pharmacy where it's available. He got 10 of them, packaged them up, gave them to the military base in Germany, and they shipped it to a military base here where another friend picked it up and brought it to him. There are answers, and of course they didn't get filtered through the FDA's. See, it was just the military.
Yeah, but then the bottle was in German.
Well, yeah, it was in German, so we had to translate it for them. Folks, here's the thing. Do the best you can with your knowledge. If you want help, I'll help you, but do the best you can to increase your health, increase your immunity with the things that you already know about. Silver would be the last thing I do. Take that money and put it on more of a botanical approach, more of an essential oil approach, okay? And move into a setting. Now, this is not the kind where you have to tape up your doors and your windows. This is the kind called don't go to the Oktoberfest. Don't go to the tractor pulls. Don't go to the state fairs, county fairs. You see what I'm saying now? Go to places like this and split. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, which essential oil?
There's a blend from Young Living called Thieves, but there's a revised and enhanced blend from doTERRA called On Guard. I like it better.
What is it called?
On Guard.
doTERRA. We can get you doTERRA oil.
You can get doTERRA. I think really what you want to do is go to the second generation oils. I mean, you're just plain, they're about the same price. Just go get it.
So you want to analyze these, right?
Get an analyze. What?
Analyze.
And make sure that your diffuser does not use water.
Really?
No.
Because the water will keep the virus alive longer. You just want oil diffused.
Yes, I missed it.
Pure.
So your mister, your diffuser should be just an oil. And this stuff is so strong. Oh, let me tell you, it's so strong that we set ours on the longest break between, which is 20 minutes, to be on for like a minute at the lowest dosage setting. And you can smell it everywhere. And it lasts you months, okay? Little bottle, probably like about the size she had. And if you have Young Living's Thieves, use it if you want. Nothing wrong with it. Okay.
I was thinking about prevention, and it would seem to me that the bodies would need to be burned, just like in an organic garden. If you have tomato hornworms, I would put them in my rubber grill to burn them so that it doesn't get back in the soil. And I think in World War II in Germany, in the camps, because I'm from Poland where all the camps were, you know, that's why they had crematories, because of typhus. You have to burn. You cannot bury them in the soil. It'll spread. And I was emailing one of the guards at, I think, Belsen camp, you know, and he said that the people there in the camps were injected with typhus, and that's what created it. And it could have been a very
Okay, let's talk about the crematory approach.
Yes. Are they doing?
Duncan, the guy that's in Dallas, the guy that is dead, they're cremating. Another breadcrumb that it's real, it's a problem. They're cremating him. And here's the last crumb I'm going to leave you. They've been planning this for a while. Here's one of the most telling signs. 6 years ago, out in Atlanta, out in the country, a farmer rented his land to the CDC. I know you've seen it. They had all these plastic coffins out there in the field. You remember that picture? 400,000 at one point. But he had 3 years to get dispensaries and these kind of facilities set up all over the country. 3 years. And each one of them have hundreds of thousands of these plastic coffins. Yesterday or the day before, I think it was the day before, the CDC just made an announcement that those that die from Ebola must be buried in a hermetically sealed plastic container so that when they erupt, they don't blow out Ebola stuff. So now they want to control it as they kill us. They want to control the kill-off, okay? So here's what they do. They put them in these, and by golly, it just so happens that those coffins out there in the country, in this guy's farm, and by the way, today you will see, if you go to the Waterman Files video, of the man there talking, the investigator, covering what's going on here. And no, it's not some other guy on the radio. Talking to the owner of the property. Okay. So, what else? Anything?
Okay, well, one final comment. As I was leaving Chicago, one of the last radio reports I heard was that they're now testing everybody coming into those airports you mentioned, Atlanta.
There's 4 airports that they're testing at. All they're doing.
Taking their temperature.
Now, it takes, they're taking their temperature. It takes 48 hours to test to find out whether you've actually got it. But guess what? They're not doing that.
Really?
What really should be happening is not to stop the flights coming in from West Africa.
They shouldn't be letting those people on board.
Let them get on an airplane, but when that airplane gets here, pull it over to a special facility and quarantine them for a month before they get to come in.
Right.
That way we know they're not going out some other way and sneaking in some other. They were, hey, come on, we'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Well, they can't go to work or anything else for a month.
Right.
That's what we do.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.